Brian, I have to ask you something. When you first started working from home, did you actually like it?
Honestly, the first week was wonderful. No commute, no office noise, pajamas all day. But by week 3, I was talking to my coffee mug just to have a conversation.
That is so funny and so relatable at the same time. Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Talk English Freely. I am Jessica, and this is Brian, and we are really glad you're here with us today.
It is always great to have you.
Today, we are talking about working from home in English. This is such a hot topic right now because so many people around the world work remotely. Whether you love it, hate it, or feel somewhere in between, I think you will really relate to today's conversation. And no matter where you are in the world, this topic is relevant to so many people right now. If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe and give us a like. It really helps us so much.
It means everything to us. Now, let us get into it.
Okay, Brian, let's start from the beginning. When did working from home become such a big thing?
Well, remote work existed before, but it really exploded during the pandemic. Millions of people suddenly found themselves working from their living rooms, kitchens, and bedrooms. Companies that had never considered remote work had to adapt almost overnight. And what surprised a lot of people was how well it actually worked. Productivity did not collapse the way many employers had feared.
Right. And after the pandemic, a lot of people did not want to go back to the office full time. They had experienced the flexibility of working from home, and they liked it. So many companies shifted to hybrid models, where employees split their time between home and the office. That became the new normal for a huge number of workers.
And the conversation around remote work is still going on today. Some companies are pushing for a full return to the office. Others have gone fully remote and do not have a physical office at all. It is a topic that touches on how we work, how we live, and what we value in our careers.
So true. Brian, what do you think are the biggest advantages of working from home?
There are quite a few. The most obvious one is no commute. For people who used to spend an hour or two traveling to and from work every day, that time is suddenly given back to them. You can use it for exercise, cooking a proper breakfast, spending time with family, or just sleeping a little longer. It adds up to a significant improvement in quality of life.
I completely agree, and the flexibility is huge too. When you work from home, you often have more control over your schedule. You can take a break when you need one, step outside for some fresh air, or even do a load of laundry between meetings. That kind of autonomy makes people feel more in control of their day.
And for a lot of people, the home environment is actually more productive than an open-plan office. No one stopping by your desk for a chat. No background noise from colleagues. No impromptu meetings that break your focus. You can really get into a deep work mode that is hard to achieve in a busy office.
That is such a good point. I personally get so much more done when I am at home with no interruptions. I can put my headphones on, focus completely, and finish tasks in half the time it would take me in an office. Brian, what about the disadvantages though? Because there are definitely some real challenges too.
Absolutely. The biggest one for most people, the blurring of boundaries between work and personal life. When your home is also your office, it can be very hard to switch off. You might find yourself checking emails at 10 at night or working through your lunch break because the physical separation between work and home is gone.
Right. And that can lead to burnout if you are not careful. Burnout is when you feel completely exhausted and overwhelmed from working too much without enough rest. Setting clear boundaries, like a fixed start time and end time, is really important. Telling yourself the workday ends at 6 and actually sticking to it takes real discipline.
Another big challenge is loneliness. Humans are social creatures, and the office provides a kind of social connection that is easy to take for granted. When you work from home, especially if you live alone, days can go by without any real face-to-face interaction. That isolation can affect your mood and your motivation over time.
I felt that a lot when I first started working remotely. The first few weeks felt like a novelty. But then I started to miss the casual conversations, the lunch breaks with colleagues, the energy of being around other people. It is something a lot of remote workers talk about, but do not always admit openly.
It is a very real thing, and it is worth addressing proactively. Scheduling regular video calls with colleagues, joining online communities related to your field, or even working from a coffee shop occasionally can all help. The key is to be intentional about staying connected.
That is such good advice. Brian, let's talk about the vocabulary around working from home. There are so many specific words and phrases that come up in this context.
There are. Remote work means working outside the traditional office, usually from home. Work from home is often shortened to WOF, which you will see a lot in emails and messages. A home office is the dedicated space in your home where you work, and flexible working refers to arrangements where you have control over when and where you work.
Right. And hybrid work means splitting time between home and the office, as we mentioned. Async or asynchronous communication is when you do not communicate in real time, like sending an email instead of having a meeting so people can respond when it suits them. That is a really common way of working in remote teams spread across different time zones.
And then there is Zoom fatigue, which is that exhausted feeling you get from too many video calls. Studies have shown that video calls are actually more mentally tiring than in-person meetings, because your brain has to work harder to read social cues on a screen. A lot of remote workers experience this, especially when their entire workday is back-to-back video meetings.
Oh, Zoom fatigue is so real. I have had days where I had 5 or 6 video calls, and by the end I was completely drained. Now I try to protect certain hours of the day as meeting-free time so I can actually focus and get things done. It makes such a difference.
That is a great strategy. Building focus blocks into your calendar, where no one can schedule meetings, is something a lot of remote workers swear by. It protects your deep work time and prevents that feeling of being constantly reactive.
And Brian, what about setting up a good home office? A lot of people underestimate how much the physical environment affects productivity.
It makes a huge difference. Having a dedicated workspace, even if it is just a corner of a room, helps your brain associate that space with work. A comfortable chair and a proper desk are really important because poor posture leads to back pain and fatigue over long hours. Good lighting is also key. Natural light is ideal, but a good desk lamp makes a big difference if that is not possible.
Right. And a reliable internet connection is non-negotiable when you work from home. Nothing is more frustrating than freezing in the middle of an important video call. A lot of remote workers invest in a wired Ethernet connection instead of Wi-Fi for more stability. And having a headset with a good microphone makes a big difference in how professional you sound on calls.
Such practical advice. And some people also find that getting dressed for work, even at home, helps them get into the right mindset. Staying in pajamas all day might feel comfortable, but it can make it harder to feel professional and focused. Small rituals like making coffee, sitting at your desk, and starting at a consistent time help signal to your brain that the workday has begun.
That is so true. I have a whole little morning routine before I start work, even though I am at home. I make breakfast, change into proper clothes, and sit at my desk at the same time every day. It sounds small, but it genuinely changes how I feel about the day ahead.
Routines are so powerful. They create structure in an environment that can easily become chaotic without them. And when the structure is there, remote work can be incredibly rewarding.
For sure. Brian, what do you think the future of remote work looks like?
I think hybrid work is here to stay for most knowledge workers. The pandemic proved that many jobs can be done remotely without losing productivity, but it also showed that in-person collaboration has real value for creativity, team building, and culture. So a mix of both seems like the most sustainable model for most companies.
I agree, and I think the companies that trust their employees to manage their own time and deliver results, regardless of where they work, will attract the best talent. People value flexibility now more than ever. It has become one of the most important factors when choosing a job, sometimes even more important than salary.
That is a really significant shift in how people think about work. The idea that you have to be physically present in an office to be a good employee is fading. Results matter more than hours logged at a desk, and that is a healthier and more sustainable way to work for most people.
Beautifully said. And whether you work from home full-time, part-time, or are just starting out in a remote role, knowing the vocabulary and being able to talk about these topics in English is really valuable.
Absolutely. Remote work is a global conversation now, and being able to participate in that conversation confidently in English opens so many doors.
Brian, I also want to talk about the communication challenges of remote work. When you are not in the same place as your team, staying connected and communicating clearly becomes so important.
It really does. In an office, you can walk over to someone's desk and ask a quick question. In a remote setting, that simple thing becomes an email, a Slack message, or a scheduled call. And messages can easily be misunderstood without the tone and body language you get in person. So remote workers have to be much more intentional and clear in their written communication.
Right. Things like using someone's name in a message, being specific about what you need, and always saying please and thank you go a long way in written communication. And knowing when to use a quick message versus a video call is a skill in itself. If something is complex or sensitive, a call is almost always better than a long message thread.
Absolutely. There is a saying in remote work culture, when in doubt, over-communicate. It is better to give too much context than too little, because assumptions and misunderstandings are much more common when you cannot see or hear the other person.
That is such good advice. And Brian, what about managing your mental health while working from home? That is something people do not always talk about openly, but it is really important.
It is so important. The lack of separation between work and home, the reduced social contact, and the pressure to always be on can take a real toll. Building regular breaks into your day is essential. Step away from your screen, go for a short walk, or just sit somewhere quiet for a few minutes. These small resets help your brain recover and keep you more focused overall.
I take a proper lunch break every day, away from my desk, and it genuinely makes the afternoon so much more productive. It can feel like you're wasting time when there is work to do, but rest actually makes you more effective, not less. And setting a firm end to the workday, shutting the laptop, and doing something you enjoy in the evening helps you truly switch off.
Creating those rituals of transition is really valuable, because without a commute, there is no natural signal that work is over. You have to create that signal yourself. It could be going for a walk, doing some exercise, cooking dinner, or anything that marks the shift from work mode to home mode. Over time, these small habits build up into a sustainable and enjoyable remote work lifestyle. And once you find what works for you, it can be incredibly freeing.
That is such a helpful way to think about it. Brian, what would you say to someone who is just starting a remote job for the first time? What is the most important thing they should know?
Set up your space before your first day. Having a clean, comfortable, dedicated workspace makes such a difference to how you feel about the day. Then establish a routine and stick to it. Start at the same time every day, take breaks at regular intervals, and end at a consistent time. Structure is your best friend when you work from home, and give yourself a little grace in the beginning. It takes time to find a rhythm that works for you. Be patient with yourself as you figure it out.
And I would add, do not be afraid to reach out to your new colleagues. In an office, you naturally meet people and build relationships. When you are remote, you have to be more proactive about it. Send a friendly message to introduce yourself, ask questions, and show genuine interest in the people you work with. Building those relationships makes remote work so much more enjoyable and sustainable.
That is such great advice. The people make the job, even in a remote environment, and when you combine good communication, a solid routine, and genuine human connection, remote work can be one of the most fulfilling ways to build a career.
And that brings us to the end of today's conversation. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, everyone.
Whether you work from home or in an office, we hope today's conversation gave you some useful vocabulary and perhaps a few new ideas.
We would love to hear from you. Do you work from home? What do you love about it, or what do you find difficult? Leave a comment below. We read every single one.
And if you enjoyed today's video, please give us a like and subscribe to Talk English Freely. It really helps us reach more learners around the world.
And remember, it is okay if working from home does not come naturally right away. See you next time.
Bye everyone.
Bye.